Now come to order. Can we have a roll call?
Robert Ellis,
Present.
Tony Servance, Theresa Doan, Krista Goodrich, Gary Libby,
Here.
Dino Pascalakis.
Here. Okay, before we get to item 3, Kirsten Goodrich wanted to attend by Zoom. It's going to require a vote on behalf of this board. So do I hear a motion to allow Krista to attend by Zoom?
Also moved.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, opposed? No. Okay. She's allowed to attend by Zoom. Now,
Is she?
it doesn't make even though she's doing this, we meet quorum without,
Right, and apparently she has not pulled up on the Zoom yet, so we're
well, we'll
proceeding.
just continue with the meeting and stuff. Okay. Approval of the October 13th meeting. Has everybody received a copy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there any additions, any discussion?
Yeah, I just have one correction under 6A. Mr. Libby stated board members cannot attend the walks because of the sunshine law. That was a question I had, so it needs a question mark behind it, because I still am puzzled about that, and
Okay.
did some discussions with some people, and I think it was the safe thing to do, but I'm
Okay, so there's a motion on you to put a question mark on your statement.
yeah.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, now, as amended, does everybody, is there a motion to approve the amended minutes?
I'll move approval.
Okay, is there a second?
A second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now, but before we go on to old business, I promised the police officer in the audience that I'd allow him to make his little presentation now so he could go on to more important things.
And I believe Krista has joined us via Zoom.
Good.
Good, okay.
Good evening, thanks, sir.
Now, hopefully this will get me out of a ticket in the future.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
I don't write tickets anymore, but if anybody pulls you over, you call me, we'll take care of it. So basically, I'll go over some of the crime stats that have taken place here over in District 2. My team's Lieutenant Davin. I am the District 2 lieutenant for the Beachside here, midnights. So covering for Captain Niccolo. So let me just jump right into these. If you have any questions, you guys can stop me or just ask me at the end. Total burglaries. So burglaries to residences are down 28%. And this is just for our Beachside here. Total larcenies. Larcenies include car breaks, shoplifting. Those are down 30%. Robberies, armed robberies, strong-armed robberies, down 32%. Total aggravated assaults or batteries. This had a 20% uptick. Those are ag assaults, batteries, persons being shot. Those are kind of hard for us to control, but there's been a little bit of an uptick in that. And since we're on that subject, there's one zone, 56 zone, that's over on Ridgewood Avenue where the J Food store is. And we have been running an operation there for the past 3 weeks, and it goes all the way through the 1st of January. Or after the 1st of January, where we have 6 officers over there on overtime working in that specific zone where we got that uptick at. Total sexual assaults or batteries are down 50%. Total part-run crimes. Part-run crimes include aggravated assaults, aggravated batteries, car breaks, burglaries to houses. Those are down 21%. Total calls for service, we had 61,728 calls on the Beachside, and that's year to date. And that's down 22%. And that's pretty much it. Any questions on any of that?
Yeah, I have one. There's a homeless person in a wheelchair that's been at the boardwalk so aggressive. He's actually yelling at my customers while they're eating to give them food
Where is this at?
in front of Pizza King.
Okay.
You know, and I'm telling you, I mean, now the last couple of days he wasn't there, but for like a week straight, I have pictures, and it's like even when I call the non-emergency line, it's like, you know, describe him, and after he has one leg, he's in a wheelchair, you know, this and that. They're asking me, well, what color shirt? I go, trust me, there's not that many people with one leg in a wheelchair. I mean, you will be able to. But anyways, but regardless of that. He's aggressive as hell, and people walking by, he's shaking his cup with a change in it, and it's just, you know. And I recognize the guy because he used to be in front of the Winn-Dixie shopping center in Ormond Beach doing the same thing over there. So he just travels from a place to place, you know. But anyways, I just want to let you know it's.
Scratch down my cell phone. Shoot me a text, and then I
give
can
me
get
your
off
cell
of
phone.
there. 386
Wait, 386
299 0916.
0916.
Yep.
Got it.
Bernie Davin, you shoot me a text, and if I'm not working, I'll send some guys down. And we can
Okay,
hear
thank
them.
you.
It's hard for us to get calls. A lot of times the calls come in when you call the non-emergency number at the county, and it can take 20 or 30 minutes just for us to hit the computer.
Oh, that guy
And then
hit
I
that
may
all
have
day.
10 or 15 calls holding, and, you know, it may get put at the bottom of the pile. But if you shoot me a call directly and
Yeah,
you shoot
no
me
problem.
a text.
Thank you.
That goes for any of you. If you have any problems anywhere, just shoot me a text message. Tell me who you are, where you need somebody, and I'll take care of that.
All right, thank
No
you.
problem.
Thank
Do you
you.
have something, Teresa?
Was that entire, was it the same time frame for all of those statistics year to date?
Yes, those are all year to date, and they're all down pretty much.
And
significantly
congratulations
from
on that.
last year.
That's
yeah,
great.
and we're down in our staffing too, just like everybody else is in the country. But the officers work really hard here on the beach side to keep everything going. So
How are things on Seabreeze Boulevard?
Seabreeze is, I think, it's doing a little bit better. You know, we've hired some more overtime units to go in there. So, you know, when I'm running the beach side and it comes time for bar close, which happens between about 1:30, we start sending extra units up into the area, and then all the way through about 3:30, we can pull them out of there. But when we get the higher overtime units to put in there, it helps me out because I don't have to pull from my patrol, you know, officers who are out answering calls, because that's a really busy time for us. Starting about at 1 o'clock to about 4:30, we probably get about 30 or 40 calls just in that time period. So it's busy over there, but it's been better. I mean, it shows here too. So,
I think there's a movement underway also through planning board to limit the 24-hour opening that some retail establishments enjoy on Seabreeze.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have a category for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah,
And,
the zone's working really hard.
Yeah.
Captain Lee and his people are, out there, and we've been making contact with some of the business owners and stuff for some of the violations they have with their stereos and loud music and stuff like that. So it's a gradual, gradually getting better.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you very much.
Okay, y'all have a safe night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, now we'll move on to old business. Is there any old business to be discussed?
I have one brief item. I ran into the new president of the Historic Preservation Advisory Board, who's in my neighborhood, former city commissioner, and they have not yet heard our inquiry about whether or not there might be a partnership possibility in doing some historic buildings, signage for historic buildings. And she was very delighted that we liked the Peabody Auditorium proposal, which they did, which was their baby, kind of, I guess, historic preservation. And I think she's going to raise it just in a question form at their December meeting, because she said the board, maybe the staff is still looking through it and the highs and lows and goods and bads of it, but the board has not heard it yet, and they will. And she's just one member, but I think it was a good sign, and there might be some really good things we could do with very little money using the power of both boards.
Is there like an echoing effect on the microphones, or is that just me?
It's just the power of my voice.
Yeah, I hear you better without the mic. Yeah? Okay, all right, okay. Is there any other old business? All right, let's move on to news business. Is there any new business?
I have a brief report that's very interesting and gives possibly us some great opportunities in the future, and that is Volusia Echo in this last round of grants moved 6 grants forward, including a super grant submitted by the city of Holly Hill for a expansion on their pickleboard courts in Holly Hill, which is a new game. And part of the discussion leveraged now the use of redevelopment funds are now eligible for up to half of the match of a grant, whether it's super or not. And I know Reed and I have been waiting for some word, on whether or not the county would like to participate in some of the things we're doing. And I understand we have a Peabody grant, I guess, warming up for Echo. And I think it's a good sign and might give us some opportunities. And in new business, I would like to, maybe, is this the appropriate place? Probably. I would like to consider asking the staff to look at the 3 existing redevelopment plans. And I'm amazed at how many you have been able to address, and that me as a new member of this board has been able to address, that are in one of those 3 plans. And I'm sure there are some other ones that might be now possible because of the Echo interface. And I'm wondering if the board would agree with me that, and if Reed would be so kind to do that, if staff could look at those 3 plans and maybe give us a brief summary of some directions we might consider moving in, given the fact that there might be resources in which to do it. And if you want me to make that in the form of a motion or wait, or under a new business can be a motion, sure. Let me ask Reed if that's a sensible way to move forward.
However you want to do that, and if it's the pleasure of this board to move something like that forward, to make a request of staff, I think there's some interest on our part, knowing that we'll be doing that just to look at. We actually have 4 plans, so we even have more opportunities.
The E-zone. Yeah, I keep forgetting these.
Yeah, we got the master plans. We also have the redevelopment plans themselves, which these are incorporated into the master plan. So we'll go back and look at all of those projects that are in there and see what the status is and what else we have that we might be able to pursue.
All right, I'd like to put that in the form of a motion then, and that maybe we support the staff's coming back to us, whether it takes 1 meeting or 2 or 3, whatever it takes, with some opportunities that we might pursue that are already priorities, have already been determined priorities because they are existing in these plans. And with some money loosening up, let me share with you the wonderful facts about Volusia Echo. There's $15 million in the trust fund from previous unspent years. The county leveraged the 0.2 mil this year, knowing they only had 6 grants, so they'll raise $8 million for if they're all funded at 100%, it's under $2 million. So there's ample room, I think, for some terrific opportunities for the city of Daytona Beach, who has all kinds of public access projects out there that would help transform the beachside as it's transforming itself right now during our lifetime. And I think I'd like the staff to look at that from that perspective and maybe give us their best thinking on which ones we might look at.
Okay. Again, it's up to you if you want to take a vote on it, or I'll just let you know.
For you guys to report back to us?
I'll report back.
Yeah, let me make it in the
pursue
form of a motion, because my discussions with our city attorney, he suggests very strongly that if we're going to discuss things like this, that it probably should be in the form of a motion. I think they'd like to make sure that a majority of the board is on board.
Gary, I'll second it.
Okay. So there's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay.
Can you repeat the motion?
Yeah, the motion would be for this board to ask our staff to review the 4 redevelopment plans that are currently on the table and our city policy right now, and perhaps through their knowledge and with the fact of new possibilities of county partnerships, look at what might be some projects that would be doable and significant in the near future. Something for us to look at in 2022, I would think.
Could parking be one of the things, or is that?
Public access parking, yes, it could be.
Yeah.
Most
Well, I mean, that
definitely.
Hilton parking lot would be a wonderful spot that, to do a high-rise, but, I don't know, that's talking a lot of.
Teresa, is that okay?
Sounds great to me.
Okay.
So I think, and some of these I think we're exploring currently in terms of some of the projects. So it's going back and checking in, obviously with staff and find out what we're going to do. It would be my intent to come back and really be reporting about what we would be doing over on the Beachside, to the Beachside board, not talking about. other
Absolutely.
And-
Oh, absolutely.
And the speakers of the band show could take a little, improvement too. Sure.
Okay, we can do.
All right, you gotta call.
Okay,
To vote.
so we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed?
May the record reflect unanimous support.
All right, we're up to the big item now. Item 5A, rezoning First Amendment to Beaches, ISB Plan Development 2021-123. I guess we'll start with staff.
Yes, this is a request by Rob Merrill of Cobb Cole on behalf of the Beaches ISB LLC to amend Beaches ISB Plan Development Agreement for the purpose of allowing electronic message center signs at 301 East International Speedway Boulevard. And, yeah, you have it. If you could help me with that, just continue, that's okay. Good. So what we have are some of the maps that just orient you to this. You've seen these before when you approved the original amendments. The next one, please, is the just the zoning where that site is now planned development. And moving on to the next, that is commercial, retail, mixed use. So there's a lot of different things you can do from a future land use standpoint there. It has some density and intensity allowances there. So it's, and when you have small lots like this, these are not very deep. It's important to be able to use as much of the property as possible to make some things happen. Next, please. So on the site, the old gas station, the Shell, right? I was right. Okay, thank you. That is now turning right this moment into what is going to be exciting.
Yeah.
It's going to be a restaurant. It's going to be the car wash is going to stay right now. It's just going to be a new car wash and a new kind of mix of different things that you can be doing there and having fun. I don't know if that's a use, but entertainment, fun, that's the expectation here, and looking forward to that happening. So in addition to that, and looking at this as our major gateway into our beachside area, it's important to know, if we go to the next slide, please. Next one after that. That's in the prior site plan. This is the project description that you've seen before when we approved the PD. What may be a little hard to see there, but just under the cupola, the highest point on the development there, is where a sign would be located, electronic message center. And so it's a wall sign. It's over just about 100 square feet or over. That's what's being requested on 3 sides. The one side that's not intended to be used is the one that faces towards the residential area to the north. So those 3 sides would then be a place for providing messages, one about what's happening there on site. And then there are some things that you've seen in your report where they would like to consider other messages that might be on the sign. You may know that, next sign, please, or next, okay. I think later the applicant is going to show a video. So if you want to do it now, okay. We'll always come back to it. So what is the request? The request is to provide something here that is going to get your attention, obviously. That's what a sign's all about. And when you're coming onto the beachside or even leaving it, you're going to get some information that will hopefully be of interest, not only to stop there, but it might have other information that's on it. And that's going to be one of the questions we'll get into a little more depth after the applicant has an opportunity to speak or during that time. So you can see on the locations where that is. To the right of this slide is the car washes, bays, and to the left the restaurant area. And that section is going to have a background that's graphics, and that will have some movement. And I'll let the applicant talk about that in a little more detail. But that's it. If you look at a lot of our electronic message centers and signs, they're on the ground. They're because in the land development code, it says monument sign. You can place one on a monument sign. This is different in that it's really wall signs that are going to provide the same kind of information. Instead of having a one-side or a two-sided monument sign, you're going to have a three-sided. But keep in mind, front and back, a lot of times you're getting messages coming and going. So the intent here is to do as much as possible to kind of greet people as they come across to the beachside and when they're leaving. Now there are some. If you could go to the next. There are waivers. You received a list of some of the benefits waivers that have been requested. There were some more that were requested, and I won't get all the detail now other than staff through the TRT, we had looked at this and said, we're missing a few things. So we had a few loose ends that we were working on just before Thanksgiving. And what has happened and transpired since then is we had additional response from the applicant, but it didn't reach me. It reached some staff, but the staff was not in the office, and so there's a delay until I received it, and it was just after we had already put together this report. So I want to kind of let you know that's why the applicant had tried to get this to us, I think it was last Friday, and it was sitting in the email, and so there's additional response that they're providing to us, and they can talk about that when I end this report here. Also, on the requested revisions to the what was going to be planned here in the agreement, I've attached the original PD agreement. And we do that from time to time to give, because it's history now, it's public record. Typically, we don't provide any of the draft agreements, if you will, until after both this board and the planning board have gone through their review of a rezoning. And I broke the rule. So I put this in because I thought it was small, it was not much, but I've been advised that shouldn't have probably done that because it is a draft. So we have to keep in mind this is still in the early stages of formulating what the final document will look like. Excuse me. The
Okay, wait.
Yeah.
On this one right here. So, if at any time prior to sunset date above, the city manager or designee notifies owner in writing that one or more. Okay, wait.
this is in
Okay,
your
so
report.
it is, okay, so it would be, because I read it differently before, because your item 4 on page 2, it does not specify that it would be the city manager. Is this a change? Because what you did on the original amendment to the plan district agreement, you put the city shall be permitted to review the proposed EMC signage to determine if such signage is posing an undue distraction to vehicles traveling. And then it goes, in the event EMC signage is found to be distracting to drivers, owner shall be permitted to revise. But it doesn't say who will be making that decision. In this one, it actually says the city manager. You know, I think that's important because, you know, because this is somewhat ambiguous as to who's going to make the decision that is distracting. That version that's on the screen says the city manager will make that decision, which is the way I'd like it to read.
Yeah, and there's been some
So,
changes.
wait, no, but I'm asking you, is that the revision supposed to change
This is
page 2?
This is a proposed and a requested revision that the applicant, I think, is
So the applicant made,
provide.
okay.
Yeah.
So they're going to get into any questions or details you have, and they can, so that we can get through all of this, because they did make changes, and I'd like them to answer exactly what they've done, because they have made some of the changes that staff had requested, actually everything. They responded to everything. I think they've satisfied what we want. The next slide, please. So given everything that we know at this time, we have some, excuse me, some concerns. I'd like our attorney to perhaps jump into, that has to really do with a First Amendment issue and some concerns we have there.
Right.
But overall, in terms of what's being requested, we do waive waivers and PDs, and with EMCs, and this board's been involved before. We've looked at waivers for the Ocean Center sign, for over at the Krabby Joe's. Those have all been places where we've allowed for waivers to really allow something that might be advantageous for helping people to understand
And
what's there.
we've not had any problems with either the county using it for political purposes, or having something up there that might be considered not family-friendly.
Well, and that is, we cannot regulate the content of the signage. And that is one of the things that will have to be removed. A couple of things that will have to be removed from this draft is that we cannot regulate the content. Reed v. Town of Gilbert really prohibits the regulation of content. So that is the one thing that anything could possibly be put up there, whether it's family-friendly or not.
And the provision allowing the city manager to contact owner.
That's specific only to safety, in terms of this is not going to be a static display. It's going to be a moving display. And if the frequency of the moving display turns out that it's causing vehicle accidents because people are paying attention to the sign rather than, that is what the city manager can address through this provision of code. It has nothing to do with the content of the signage.
Let me ask Mr. Merrill, because I'm sure he's familiar with signs like this in other municipalities that have had this question too.
Yes.
On the way in. Tell us about, tell us about the sign.
Okay, good. Rob Merrill, Cobb Cole, 149 South Ridgewood. So here with Chuck Duva, and before I try to answer Gary's question, you guys had this project, you might remember, a few months ago. It's under construction. I think we're all excited that something's under construction on East ISB. I was, and I think I gave you this preface when we had our conversation about the project, but, it's not just me and you guys. The whole community's been behind trying to do something on East ISB for a long time now. The Chamber developed an economic development committee. Got Rodney Cruz from Emmeriddle was the chairman of it. Tom Leake was there. Jim, I think, was involved in it. And, Lenny Marinette. There's a bunch of people that got behind it. And we spent, several meetings, 15 meetings, trying to come up with what we wanted to do. You know what we ended up with? We need to do something on East ISB. We had lots of projects. We had lots of concepts, lots of ideas. That was it. And so they came up with a video. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Hopefully you have. That was what came out of it, the work product. But ultimately, we wanted somebody to do something. There he is. He's doing something. So when we went through this process, we talked about the project. You guys loved it. Everybody loved it. What we didn't do was we didn't come up with a signage plan. And so Chuck hired a guy who's a sign, expert to come up with what the art should look like on this project. So rewind a few paces. I guess about 5 to 7 years ago, you guys decided electronic signage was okay with Daytona Beach. For a long time, it wasn't.
Right.
And in part because, 30 or so years ago, George Karamidas put his Maui Knicks sign up, and it had a bunch of bulbs, and it was really loud and bothered people. So the new technology, though, with electronic message center signage is very different. So we went through a really long process. Actually, the mayor and commission asked myself and Pam Woods to go caucus for several meetings to come up with something that everybody would like, because Pam was very focused on. You guys remember Pam. And we did. So the structure that you see that allows those signage is a code that we came up with, and you'll see them at the Speedway, you'll see them at the mall, you see them at the dog track, see them out on Gary Yeoman's out there, a few other places where they've done it, and it's been done tastefully. I think people have accepted it. So Chuck wanted to use electronic technology for this sign. The one thing that's unique about it that goes to your question now, Gary, was you saw the video, and when I say video, there are some situations where you can do actual video, like a television moving picture. And that's during racing events out at the Speedway that are not visible and distracting to the roadway. Same thing here. What Chuck wanted to do was, what you saw was kind of a moving form in the background of the signage, which says Beaches, which is his establishment. And so everybody was a little skeptical about the fact that something was moving. But when you look at it, it's pretty tasteful. It looks pretty good, and it's kind of, it's not detracting, it's attracting, and it's not going to cause you to run off the road, but it'll say, oh, okay, looks like a neat place. So, but that's the reason why that provision is in there, Dina, that you were focused on about what the manager should do. We wanted to make sure there was kind of if it looked like it did cause problems, we want to have kind of a trial period. If you didn't like it, we'll just go to a static screen, But we'd like to try it because I think everybody thinks it looks good. So that's kind of the answer. So on the legal front of it, we started to figure out, well, how do we say that? And so that's how we got to where we are with making sure we say it so it doesn't violate the First Amendment, et cetera. So
now, I have some problems with this. Do you want me to bring it up now? Or
bring it out there.
Okay. Is that all right with the board that I start with this? Okay. Well, back in March 11th of 2020, and I ended up pulling the minutes to that meeting, you represented Krabby Joe's, and back then, they wanted to put a message center in front of, the facility that they had.
Right.
I was trying to push for 25% of the total sign area. Then Kira informed me back then, actually was it you? Yep. No. Yeah, it was. That the LDC allows up to 50% of the total sign area.
Right.
So, I kind of conceded on that one. I really didn't want to concede, but I conceded, up to 50%, but of the total sign area. This is 3 message centers, 100% of the total sign area on all 3. It is so far from the LDC, and I know that you're asking waivers and everything, but can't you? I would
Let's
rather.
put the picture back up again for a second, if you don't mind. Yeah, so I went ahead and let you jump the gun, but let's go back to it. So, Dino, come on. Get me to the one where it shows the perspective of the whole thing, not the video. In other words, I want to see how you see the building with this sign on it, where Reed said, can you hardly even see it when you made that point? I want that picture.
I personally would rather see it.
Time out. Let me get my picture up there, because you're throwing me back now, Dino. Come on. This is one where it should be a very strong, unanimous. Thank you for being here, Chuck. We love your sign.
First of all, thank you for being here. I love the building. I love all the
right there.
revisions.
Stop right
I have
there.
a problem with that particular, with 3 message centers.
It's all about perspective. Look at the bag. You can get us still. Yeah. So the sign is here.
Dino is also asking, can there be 3 separate messages going on simultaneously? You show us the same sign on all 3 faces.
It's the same, but you got three faces because you're people coming from this way and that way and looking from the.
But it wouldn't be 3 totally separate things on each face.
I don't know we've ever thought about that, but I think it's supposed to be the same message.
I think when you look at the structure,
Come on,
If you could come to the mic, please.
When you,
Chuck Duva.
hey, hi, Chuck Duva, 545 Ocean Shore Boulevard. When you look at the actual structure and the signage, it's less than 1/3 of the structure.
That's what I was pointing to.
Okay, so it's less than 1/3 of that entire structure. I mean, this may put it off a little bit because you can see it the black kind of extends up to the roof line.
right.
And it kind of goes down further, but it's actually about 1/3 of the structure. The messages are going to be the same on all 3 sides
Okay.
at the same time.
That's an important.
That's the plan, and the repetitive nature of the messages. If you look at your watch, and the request was 60 to 20 seconds, but if you look at your watch, I just started talking for 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to be distracting, and it's not one of those things that are going to be firing things like this.
Right.
It's going to be a fluid message that's going to be up there for a minimum of 20 seconds. Okay?
So it's really one sign with 3 faces.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And the sign itself, the square footage is actually less than 1/3 of that tower.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me
overall.
ask you, why?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I say, so I wrote that code with the city attorney. And so at the end of the day, we were looking at a monument sign, not a building sign.
Oh, I
So
understand
this
that.
is way different.
But
So
why
when I
didn't-
talk about scale and perspective, you compare it to the building, not a monument. So
But why not go back? Why not use the code that we currently have? Why not go with a monument sign?
We're not doing that, Dino. So this is what we're going to do. Tell me yes or no, because this is what we're doing. That's the square footage. We want that. We like that. Everybody likes it, except you apparently. Just give us your final vote on it, Dino, because I'm telling you,
Okay.
I think it looks great. I think this.
First of all, I love the project. My problem is I like being consistent, and
This is a wall sign. It's the first one we've had.
We held Krabby Joe's to a 50%
Dino,
of the
I think
total
this is
area.
different than any sign we've had in the area. It is
So
a
at the end of the
completely
day, the
different
signage
sign.
code that I wrote was designed for monument signs. We're not doing a monument sign. We went ahead and put it on the building. We think it looks better.
It's safer. It's much better on
Looks
the building. Could other members maybe?
Yeah, I know.
He's got a list.
Yeah,
though. Let's go down the whole list.
I wanted just to throw this out, my feelings, and then but I wanted,
Let's
but
keep
obviously
going.
I want to entertain everybody else's stuff.
Oh, I was just saying, Dino, I think it's a completely different sign than what we've had at any point. It's completely new. I think it's going to update the area. I think it's going to look great. It's far better than a monument sign. It's up in the air. Everyone can see it. I think it's less distracting.
Yeah.
Cars aren't going to get distracted by something that high up. And overall building size, I don't see an issue with the size of the sign. I think it's a good idea.
Now,
And, you know, consistency is the
I know, but
hobgoblin
it's a different type of sign. It's not a monument.
of small minds.
I understand.
And what we did, I mean, I remember the Maui Knicks or the Mr. Caramito's sign. I remember that driving down the road, even in its final stage. And we've gone way, way beyond that now. And I was very pleased when I saw this and thought it was a really forward. I hope the city sees this as a really positive value way to improve signage in our city, and I hope it's the first of many like this in the city that are on the building and not monuments. The monument produces a whole different quality, I think, and the building is a quality building, and I was very pleased to see the signage. Knowing it's one sign with three faces even makes me more pleased. I think that's the way to do it, and I think there are, sure, when we compare it to signage, I remember the first electronic signs that were stuck in windows of stores, and as you drove by, the thing would flash, would flash, get you in the face, and that's why the city put a...
well, that's what you're opening up the door to.
Well, this is not going to be...
So first of all, this is a PD we're talking about. So this is a unique situation.
Right.
You guys decide whether it looks good where it is. It doesn't have any precedent setting. It's zero. So each PD stands on its own, two legs. And Dino, I understand what you were saying about the other sign, which was a monument sign. And the code provisions didn't contemplate this. Period. End of story. Because I wrote them. I know we didn't think about wall signs. So in this case, we're not having to deal with a monument sign. We have a right to have a building sign anyway, but we're putting them together as one, and we're using the electronic method to do it because we think it's going to look nice. It's going to pop. It's going to create attention in a way that's positive for East ISB. That's why we're here. He's spending a bunch of money on this sign. I mean, it's a nice sign, and I thought you guys would just love it based on the video, especially. So
my problem, okay, and first of all, I brought it up at the beginning, giving you the opportunity to shoot me down, which apparently is happening. My problem is the precedent setting, and I know you say it's a PD, it's not precedent setting, but how do I turn around to the next person that comes before this board and says, well, look at this one, you allowed it, I should have it, and I could just see
That's a good question.
The future effect of this on the rest of the city, and that's where I'm going with it. As far as the project, I love the project. I have no problem with the project. And I definitely believe that he deserves signage. And I was hoping that you were going to do a monument sign with the 50% thing that we passed for Krabby Joe's. But regardless of that, I'm looking at the precedent setting for other businesses.
Okay, I would like to support that. I hope it is a precedent for other businesses. I think when you see a good thing, it's silly to do it one time. I mean, I think this is I've seen cities that have used this type of sign before. Florida cities is very effective. It's clean, it's neat. It gives a whole different environment than the pedestal or the monument signs do. They have an architectural quality all their own, and they usually do not contribute, I think, to the overall aesthetic effect of the building. This does, and I hope more businesses move in this direction and away from the monument signs. I think are 1950. And you see museums of neon signs all over the country. This is the future. And I salute you, Dr. Duva, because I know how expensive these signs are, but you get what you pay for, and they're really quality signs. And I think we gain much more than we might lose in supporting this.
I'd like to hear from Teresa.
You through, Mr. Libby?
What's that?
I was just making sure Mr. Libby was finished.
Sure, absolutely.
Teresa, can you go more in the microphone?
Yes, sorry. Questions only. Please don't interpret this as how
Sure.
I intend to vote.
That's why I'm here.
I did not research the sign standard, but were there any standards that were not waived in this request?
You know, I don't. Yes, there
Okay,
are some,
okay.
absolutely. So
There-
Teresa, there's a whole bunch of stuff in there that had to do with things like the brightness of the sign, the
yeah.
resolution of it, and
Okay,
stuff.
that-
Yeah, we're doing all the right things.
Okay. I take your answer that it will not set a precedent, because I think of neighboring businesses, other businesses may want to do the same. So follow the same path, do a plan development.
Yes. So do you want me to answer that? Because
That is the issue, correct?
It goes to Dino's question too, which is a good one. So when we did this sign ordinance to allow electronic signs, we tried to figure out a way that we would. So I've done hundreds of signs, variances, PDs, you know, special exceptions, special use permits.
Halifax Hospital.
Yeah, I did the house. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is you look at the picture of the sign. Is it to scale? Is it tasteful? Is it distracting? If it checks those boxes off, you say yes, typically.
Is it
But
a prerequisite that the use has to be acceptable?
When you say the use.
The use of the sign.
Of the business? Say it's anyway, never mind.
Well, she's going to the whole content thing, which gets slippery.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, what I was going to say was, as we were going through that process to adopt the code and put all the standards in you were asking me about, we said, well, the one way we'll know whether we like it or not is make them do a PD to get the sign. So I did the dog track, I did Gary Yeoman's, I did them all, I did the Speedway. You know, we did all these with PDs so you could see them. And then you say, oh, that's okay, or no, it's too big, or no, it's too whatever.
Okay.
That's why we're here with the PD.
I read it in one spot and then I read it in another spot. Does this sunshine annually?
No. So what we were doing was we were saying that with respect to the part of the sign that moves, the background that moves like that, that's fluid, it's a new thing. Nobody's done it. We wanted to have it be a trial period. That's the reason why that says that.
So only that, the
Only that
moving
part.
background.
Yeah, the sign's going to be, we're going to build the sign.
The
It's gonna be
moving
up there.
background is the only part.
Yeah, so
that-
this thing's computerized, so you can hit a button and say, okay, no more of that fluid
I
background.
understand, yeah. But okay, and then does this privilege reside with the property or with
Yes.
Beaches LLC, the entity?
So it's part of the PD, which has already been approved. You guys approved.
So if you were to sell it, that privilege.
It runs with the
would be
land
in
like
place.
any other zoning approval. Yeah.
But what is the dimensions of the wall sign?
If you blow it up, you'll be able to see it right in front of you. I don't have it memorized.
10.
The most important thing is the relationship of the size of the sign to the size of the building, in my opinion.
Architecture.
That's the perspective and the scale that I was talking about, which are two words that you always use when you're talking about a sign or architecture.
I like the way the signage was incorporated into the building. I think that if your architect did it or the sign company or whoever, it doesn't stay, it's part of the skin of the building. I think that's a brilliant move, and more signage in our city needs to reflect that aesthetic.
Well, what Chuck did was he got his architect and his sign guy to work together to come up with this. I mean, you can talk about the vision of it.
Yeah, the fellow that I'm hopefully purchasing the signage from did most of the work for the Super Bowl last year in Tampa, and he was born here in Daytona Beach, Ormond Beach, and I've known him since he's 4 years old, and he's gotten into this business and he's been extremely successful. This is really cutting edge technology. And what we did was we had to design the building around the incorporation of this sign going in there. So it isn't just slapped on there. It's really part of the tower. And when you look at this, it's almost like a lighthouse.
Yes.
It's a lighthouse effect.
is.
And when you come across the bridge, and of course I own Gateway as well, and you know about Gateway. And nice folks over there, and they're still over there. But eventually, Gateway will be gone, And the reason for that is a multitude of reasons. The city has, and the people that are in Gateway know that I'm going to eventually take the building down, and they're well aware of that. They're great folks. Spiros and his wife are wonderful people. And, to be able to see the building properly, that's an obstruction to be able to see the building itself. The signage, though, is really going to significantly improve that area. We're going to uplift that part of the beachside. Because I look at the beachside as, okay, it's a barrier island. So if you think about the word barrier and you think about the mainland, you go from the mainland side, that is where we all work, and on the barrier side is supposedly where we all play and get entertainment. And people coming from out of town, that's what they look for. And so we want this to be a destination. I'd like to share with you what I'm doing inside. I've hired people from Disney that have been artists, sculptors, and the inside of it is going to be completely different. It'll be a destination like nothing this town has ever seen before, interior-wise.
Bravo.
It's totally different. And if you're interested in design, if you're interested in art, but there's lots of sculptures, there's murals on the wall, there's 3D murals. And we're going to have great entertainment. And I know Teresa knows a lot about entertainment, and I'm a big entertainment person. I actually have a recording studio here in town. And so people are craving entertainment in this area. When people come from Orlando and they come here, the beach is the only thing for them. And so my vision for this part of town is starting with this, but creating a very strong family atmosphere for people to do things, but on this level. And when people come here, they'll be able to get great food, they'll have great entertainment. The locals that I've spoken to with respect to the entertainment that we're going to have are going to really love it, because there is a void of entertainment. We're trying to set the level high enough where when people come in, they're going to have to compete with what we've produced here. And we think that's very, very important.
I also saw your landscape plan, and it's very nice.
Thank you.
And I think it's green, it'll be an oasis.
Yes.
A destination that's now concrete.
Right.
With no vegetation.
Right. Well, we're very, like I said, I did Cornerstone. That whole corner, I designed all the foliage out there.
Yeah.
And of course, there's developers now that want to come in and remove a lot of that. That's not my opinion. But I have no control over what somebody might do in the future. But this is going to be a destination, and this'll bring people here, and it'll give something for them to do while they're here. Just one more thing, but that whole street, and I've talked to the other property owners on the street, and their desire is to create really a family atmosphere on that street. And one of the things I think we have a void here is that when people come in from out of town, they recognize the things that they're familiar with, what they have in their hometown, their large city, their small city, and that's with respect to, let's say, if they want ice cream. Where do you get ice cream on that part of the beach? You don't?
No.
Used to be. We had Howard's down there on Grandview and ISB. It was wonderful. They were old friends of mine. Delicious ice cream. So I'm very interested, and I bought some other property over there recently as well. And I'm working with, the people that own a lot of property over there. And so I'm trying to get this momentum going and with them involved in it, but they're interested in doing a family type entrance into the world's most famous beach. Daytona Beach has a huge name. I don't think sometimes we recognize when I go over to Europe and people say, I say, where do you live? I live in Ormond Beach, but it's right near Daytona. Oh, Daytona racing, the 24 hours, they go crazy, But we've got to do something with this street. And this is going to be, like I said, the interior of it is going to be amazing. If you like sculptures, if you like murals, etc. So anyway.
I just want you to know, I'm not having zero against your project. I'm just looking at the precedent setting here.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me nervous. And I did the calculations. Is each of these EMC signs 105 square feet? So they would be what?
No, they aren't.
Okay, because that
That's
right
not
here,
the size of it.
I'm reading
They're
the.
all scaled.
They're
What's
all,
that?
They're all scale drawings. You can look at them and read.
Okay,
I don't have them.
because the front.
and staff tell me the size of the of the wall sign.
Yeah. Yeah. The front sign is much larger, not much larger. It's larger than the two signs on the side. Okay. And like I said, it's less than 1/3 of that tower.
Okay, because I'm just reading
Significantly less.
number
than 1/3.
10, and number 10 says a maximum sign height of 6.5 feet and a maximum sign area for each sign of 105 square feet per sign. That's what that's what
Yeah,
this says.
but the sides are smaller.
It depends what you're measuring. When
Yeah.
it comes down to it, they measure
Yeah.
the sign as whatever is next to the
Yeah.
text. So
I'm talking about.
you guys have an answer to it in front of you or not?
Not in front of me, but
What I do have in front of me is that, and that's the
Right.
scale.
Okay, let me see that.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
That right up there.
Does it have a?
it's about,
So we're measuring things for
Right.
the sake of what? I mean, that's what you see.
Well-
That's it.
Okay, well, if I use the writing in the agreement, the 105 square feet per sign, and divided by the 6.5 feet, upright, I come out with 16 feet and width. Is that
That sounds right.
So 16 by 6.5.
But my point is, this is the most important thing to look at, not the description of the
Yeah,
dimensions.
and here's the other thing. This is a little bit deceiving in the fact, that you see that letter, you see where it says proposed? The top of the sign is right above that.
Right.
It doesn't go all the way up to the roof line.
No, I understand
That's
that.
deceptive.
Because then it would be
That's
covered
wrong.
somewhat. Yeah.
Yeah. See, so it's that piece going down to that white line on the building. And it's somewhat deceiving, but.
You could see it on that. Well,
Yeah, this is, it's a little better. It's hard to tell with that drawing.
Those look the same size.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but the sign actually is from the top of that P down to that white line. And that's the width of it. And it's the same thing on the sides, but the sides aren't as long.
If you want the sign to be smaller, tell us that. We want it this size because it looks good like that. We
Yeah.
think it's proportional.
Well, I think you have the votes without me, so I wouldn't be compromising when I'm the only person that seems to be having a problem with it. You know?
We're not talking about the votes. We're talking about trying to do.
I'm just, and
We like this.
trust me, I love your project. I just have a problem with the precedent setting, and we're talking about 100 square feet, of signage, that everybody's going to point to this as the template as to what they want to do in the future.
Probably
Good,
not a bad idea.
good.
Yeah, I mean,
Very good.
yeah.
So at the end of the day, Dina, well, let's finish with whatever questions you have. I think this thing speaks for itself. Let's leave that picture up because I think that tells the whole story. Precedent setting, you're hung up on that. Every one of these we've done with PDs, and so what you do is you look at it in context.
Right,
Doesn't create a precedent because each situation is different.
that's correct.
So,
So
can we
this
tell-
is so different from the Volusia Mall, and it's so different from the dog track, and it's so different from the Speedway. Every one of them's different. You got to look at them in context, and if you look at this in context, I think it looks great.
So this does not change the LDC at all.
No.
All it does,
correct.
Wait, this does not change the
PD
LDC.
is,
Does not
is a
change.
custom
Okay,
zone.
so all we're doing is that if anybody wants a sign such as this in the future, they would have to do it as a PD coming
Correct.
before this board.
the
Stands on
code
its
already
own-
says that, Dino. That's
Right.
why we're here.
What's that?
The code already says that. Like I said before, when Teresa was talking about the PD, we put that in the code so that people would have to come in and show you what the sign's going to look like. That's what we're doing here.
May I ask you, we cannot regulate the content, but what is the intended content? What is the computer going to be able to produce for you, and what are the kinds
Anything.
of things
But
that
it's
you
limited-
envision?
Go ahead.
Yeah, we could.
video shows
It's a
Can you talk
digital
into the
format, so
microphone?
you could put anything you want there, but that's not what we're doing.
Yeah, what are you?
First thing
doing?
is one, that we are always going to use it as a public notice signage. So if there's a hurricane, or if you need to evacuate from the barrier island, if there's an alert to the public, an emergency alert to the public, we're going to say, we're going to do that. So this is free. This is free for the city. It's free for the county. It's free for the state for them to use our signage.
No, you're not
We're-
going to advertise.
That's my second thing. We are not going to advertise outside of what we do for this
Good.
facility.
Okay, that's
Yeah. The sign is for this. It's called an entertainment eatery. It's not a restaurant.
Right.
It's not a bar. And but it's all built around this.
So the agreement will be, with the city, will be limited to beaches
Right.
and public supportive type of, announcements.
Yeah, so Dino, like every sign, unless it is a sign for your business, it becomes a billboard, which is illegal.
Right.
in Daytona.
That's what
Unless
I
you're
don't
on the
want a
interstate.
billboard. I mean,
So this is not a billboard. The one exception is what Chuck mentioned, which Reed already told you guys about, which is some of these signs are a great opportunity because you can do it with a change of the computer to show, okay, there's a tidal wave coming or whatever.
Right.
Public service announcement that can be instantaneously put up there. So we've agreed to allow this sign to be used for that purpose, as well as our advertising for our project. And that's it.
Right.
No more.
I ask some questions? Or can I just say something?
Yeah,
Sorry, this is Krista.
There you go.
Sorry. Hi. So do we have public comments on this topic?
Yeah,
Yes.
we haven't got to that point yet.
Okay, so I guess I would want to withhold my thoughts, I guess, until I hear public comments, because I'm curious what the public thinks about this.
Okay, you are in the passenger seat of that car, right?
Yes, I am in the passenger seat of the car, and it's really cold where I am.
All right.
All right, you guys done with me?
Okay, but now I monopolized this, so you keep talking on other things, so I'm sorry.
No, I mean, my presentation was real simple. This is awesome. Take a look at it. Say yes. I mean, this is not a complicated thing at all. You guys went through the project with us with fine-tooth comb, and you said yes, and unanimously, and we
Let
went
me
to the
address
commission.
the
They loved it
precedent,
too.
the precedent hesitancy that Mr. Paspalakis has. This is a PD, and there isn't any precedent setting other than within this project. I mean,
Right.
and so this project can become a model for other people, but the sign can't. I mean, it's part of the PD project. And I hope it does. I hope it shows people in Daytona Beach that they can invest significant dollars in our city and do something of value and merit that benefits them and everyone else in the city to boot. And I think this is the kind of a project that I have been waiting to see for a long time, and I've lived here almost 50 years. So congratulations.
Kira, are we allowed to set a minimum dollar amount that somebody has to spend on a PD before us? Like in other words, could we somehow make it not that, but can we somehow make it to where existing structures don't just pop up with asking to be changed to PD? That there's got to be a sizable investment on the property to get the benefit of.
I think a
Of an
PD
elected
is a sizable
message?
investment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that costs quite a bit.
No, I'm not talking about the site
Easy,
itself.
Bobby.
I'm talking about the remodeling on the building.
Seems redundant.
Well, I mean, a
going there all the
PD
time,
is a
don't you?
type of rezoning, and so they would have to go through a rezoning process. It's not just, they would have to go through a rezoning process. So the expense would be in part of the permitting or the application fees for the rezoning. I'm not aware of any kind of monetary
Yeah, you
limit
can do
that you could
Okay.
put on
All right,
a project.
I'm just trying to deal with this. Okay, it's all right. I'll keep quiet for now.
You guys are done with me. I'll sit down.
You can sit down.
Okay.
I got other people that want to speak to it. All right. And we'll start with Charles. Charles, you just spoke, okay? All right.
Chuck.
Okay, John Nicholson, I believe I have some more.
John Nicholson, 413 North Granbury Avenue. Yeah, Dino, I have the same questions. And I go back 30 years when they took the sign down from Maui Nix. There was a problem. That problem doesn't exist really with this. I do right at the very top, I have billboard. Is this going to be another concept of billboard? Rather than being on the top of the roof, it's going to be on the side of the roof. So I did think about the idea of this being a billboard. I do not believe that they were going to hold it just to the word beaches and to public comments. Because if they were advertising, let's say they have a famous musician, it's perfect to put the name out there. If, to me, it's logical. So I'm hoping that's what they do to draw interest. Personally, if you look at that, it fits that structure. Okay? It absolutely does, wall to wall, and it's what it should do. Okay? I don't have a problem with the size, even though the fact is it's larger than we would normally permit. Okay? We did go through this on A1A with Krabby Joe's. The signage now is, 30, 40, 50 signs all over the place? Okay? That was my question. Is this the only signage? You've got what appears to be 200 feet of building with several different things, with nothing on it. When you look at the diagram that's up there, all right, all you have is this sign. There's nothing over the restaurant. There's nothing over the centerpiece.
Ask them.
I'm just making a comment. You all can ask. They can answer. Rob usually does. Okay? So is there going to be any additional signage? So if we normally allow X number of feet per foot on a building, okay, and they have two sides, they do have a side street, so there's all kinds of diagrams and whatnot. So if they're normally allowed 150 feet, they put in 600, 700 feet, then there's a big difference between 100 feet and 700 feet, okay? There can be too much signage to where it gets cluttered. They do that in Miami and Little Havana.
You mean like a mall?
Like a mall. So their buildings have every inch all the way across is signage. Then the windows have signage. So it really gets a bit crowded. So I don't think he's going to do that, but what happens with the next person, et cetera. All right? So I would like to see the tail end. What is the total number of signage? Is he also going to put a sign on the corner? Remember the gas station had a sign right there? Okay? Is that going to be repeated? I absolutely hate monument signs. They block my view. I'm short. When I pull to the street, I can't see past the monument sign. So I absolutely love the idea that it's up on the building, okay, and that he's not putting in a monument sign. So there are a lot of things I like about this. 50%, if we just say, okay, get 50% LED, does he get the other 50%, this 300 square feet, in other signage as well? There's a questions. Do you understand? So what additional signage will be permitted? And what is that additional signage going to look like? The particulars right there, absolutely fine with me. I understand it doesn't match what we've allowed previously, but times have changed. This literally fits this location. It literally looks good. So the technology, I think it's something that we need. For years, Tracy Remark hated the LEDs. She wouldn't have it anywhere. You couldn't have an LED light bulb. The concept of LED drove her crazy. So it took us 20 years to get to the new technology, and it was 20 years old before we were allowed to use it. I don't want to wait 20 years before we could use this. when it comes before you, Dino, you have the right to sit there and say, nope, it looks terrible. You do have that right. It must come before you can add an additional one of these anywhere.
Okay.
So be happy with or satisfied that this is limited. Other people, if they're smart and they see this and it fits their building, hopefully they will put it on their building. Mm-hmm. And if you like what they've done, you have the right to say hello. So I'm asking you to accept this, but also see what other additional signage there might be. Thank you.
Good question.
That's the only sign.
All right. The only sign on the building is on the tower. That's it. There's no monument sign, even though the previous PD approved a monument sign on Peninsula. I don't like monument signs either, by the way. And I'm a little bit taller than you are. You know. So anyway,
I was assuming that if you were going to have signs saying package store, restaurant, ding, 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 ding along the front, you would have shown that.
We would have
on
done
your
that.
drawing.
I'm not going to tell you that there's not going to be an open sign that says on the package store, you know, so they know it's open or closed. But there's nothing else. That's it.
Well, okay.
To be clear for you guys, though, and when we talked about billboard versus on-premises sign, that's defined to not just say beaches, but it might say beaches and Jimmy Buffett's playing tonight in the bar. You know, so as long as it has to do with this project and this operation, it can be on that sign.
Correct.
Okay, just making sure. Because
Okay.
John asked about that.
Jim Cameron?
Good evening. I'm Jim Cameron, 335 Bucknell Drive, Daytona Beach, and I'm speaking tonight as a Daytona Beach resident. I'm not with Chamber of Commerce anymore and been with them for several months now. But I wanted to reflect back on a few things, maybe when I was with Chamber of Commerce that might relate to this, though. But, and I say that on Chamber staff, and I'm going back like about 1990. George Mirabal, rest in peace, told us at a staff meeting, you know, all of our data says this is a great community for visitors when they come here because they love the beach during the day. But then when they come off the beach at night, what do you do? We don't know. We've been looking for that. And this is that new type of venue that I think what we've been looking for all along for when those people come off the beach during the day. And like Rob had said, Chamber, we were all behind, and we still are behind the revitalization of East ISB. And I want to give Chuck credit for this because he's actually the first bird off the wire. He really doesn't have the neighbors there. I mean, so hopefully we'll be getting some neighbors later on down the road, though. But, and I want to add, though, that I worked with Rob years ago when this electronic message center issue came up before planning board years ago. And it was around, I want to say 2010, something like that. And Glenn Ritchie was mayor. And Pam Woods, commissioner over here, was opposed to it, though. But when they talked about it, Glenn looked over there to Pam and said, we need to discuss this further, and I want to put some recommendations forth, though. Pam, I want you to head it up. And I thought, oh, boy, Pam, come on, really? Pam was tough. Mm-hmm. She was really tough on this, but she was fair. She was fair. And she got a good ordinance to come out of that. So, I mean, I'm really, had a lot of respect for her on this, though. Like we talked before, this is not your grandfather's EMC type sign, though. I mean, I wouldn't want anything distracting up there. I mean, it irks me when I see something like that, though. And this is not going to be that way, though. And I agree with a lot of what John was saying, though, but especially I don't want to go back to the old marquees up there when if you put up there seafood buffet and then we've run out of E's, so you put that backwards 3 up there or something, or you try to slip in a upside down 7 or something. You know, I don't know. I mean, this is much better, and But this is East ISB, for the most part. This is your first image of the Beachside going to the core tourist district. And I think this place here is going to really, really set a precedent, though. It's not a monument sign, though. I think it's a great idea having it on the building per se. And one thing I'd like to bring up, maybe just a suggestion, I think we talked about this before. Maybe if need be, when there's that time comes up, maybe you could put a PSA up there, maybe storm coming or something like that. I mean, but a PSA up there from time to time like that, though. But I think this is going to be a great place, something we've long time needed. And I want to see Chuck up here, hopefully in the not too distant future, speaking up to get some neighbors on East ISB, though. And I'll be up here myself.
All right,
Thank you.
All right, and before I call in Ruby, she did make a comment that.
No, that's not public comment. That's just to be submitted. No, I want to comment, but that note I wrote is just for staff.
You want to comment later?
No. I would like to comment now, but the note I wrote on the comment form is just for staff.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Ann Ruby, 137 Park Avenue. I like this project. It's been a thrill watching it get built. It's been wonderful seeing it progress. I like the font on that sample. I don't know if that's the font you're using. I think the three-sided signs on the tower is perfectly, wonderfully appropriate in this site for this use. It's great. I have two nuts and bolts questions. Will this sign be operative 24/7 or only when the business is open? And two, have you thought about light leakage to the north in the residential areas? If there is that big house behind it, is that going to leak at all back there? So those are my two questions.
So the answer to that is no, the sign is not going to be open 24 hours, only when the business is open.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's number one. And yes, we have measured the reflection of the light going north, okay? So we're safe on that. We considered that all along, as long as, and in addition to any noise coming out of the building, okay? Because we are restricted to so many decibels beyond the average ground noise that's going on on that corner. But if you've been on that corner I'm out there every day, once or twice a day for several hours. That's a very noisy corner.
Very.
And if you live in that house behind me, which the neighbors love the project, Brett and Christina, they say your place will never make any noise compared to what is going on at ISB, because it's really noisy.
Yeah.
That's a noisy street.
Okay, well, that's no more public comments. Now I guess we're going to go back to board comments. Teresa,
I don't have any questions.
Robert.
I think we've been over everything.
Okay.
Liver here?
Well, no, I'm going to say your name, but I was going to recognize Krista wanted to speak after and I forgot about her, so I was going to bring it up to Krista. Are you?
Thank you. Yeah, so obviously I just wanted to hear everyone's opinions because, as we all know, I'm a huge fan of positive, exciting growth on the beach side. So, yeah, I think this is fantastic. I, too, Dino, had some concerns about it being electronic and was it going to be a billboard, because I certainly don't want that type of image to be not so much even in just one place, but to have that spread. But it sounds like those issues have been addressed. I think the project's beautiful. I love coming down Peninsula every day and seeing it happening. Congrats. We're really excited to have you, and this is the kind of thing that we need to really move Daytona out of the dark ages.
Okay, Chop Liver, it's your turn.
Yeah, I celebrate people like Dino who want to defend the past, but Dino, we've got to look to the future, and this is the perfect kind of step forward and it's a big step forward. It's not a little modest project. It's a big project, and the sign is a big sign, but it's a sign that needs to be a big sign for a big project. And I like it very much, and I hope it does become a precedent. Precedent's also a very positive term. Some people use it as a negative term because they don't want change, but I think this is a change agent, and I'm pleased to support it. There are going to be challenges with the traffic there. I mean, because this is going to be a popular place. I also was concerned about the light levels and looked into any bleed, to the north. And they've done everything. They're not going to have any spotlights aiming to the north to protect the back of the building or anything like that. It seems to be very well conceived. So I think it's as good as it can be, and it is our biggest commercial corridor, most important commercial corridor on the island, and I think the building is perfect for it. And I salute the guts it took Dr. Duva to do this. And thank you.
I just want to make one comment, and when you mentioned guts, so the two architects that are involved in the project, and so the first time I went out there with both of them, and the first architect came back the other day, and we've been working on this a while. He hadn't even been out. The other architect's out, multiple times during the week. And he came out and he said to me, he said, when you started this, I thought you were absolutely crazy. Taking an old gas station that'd been there since the 50s, but it's a really unique structure. It faces the southeast. And you get that sea breeze coming through the southeast. And I've never thought about this as to architecturally or designing or positioning I live on the ocean, and positioning the house in the southeast direction where you get that natural sea breeze. And it's amazing. I was in there in August. There was no air conditioning, and it was amazingly cool. I couldn't believe it. But somebody was smarter than I was, or smarter than some other people, and put it in that direction. Because, it's kind of an odd-looking thing. But the architect he said, I thought you were crazy doing this. But it's, we've got a major investment in it. And like I said, I moved here in '64 and went to Seabreeze. And I've seen everything. I've seen Main Street change. I remember when Main Street was totally different. I remember when Volusia Avenue was totally different. And I remember all of that. And it absolutely breaks my heart to see how East ISB looks. And, of course, my wife thinks fortunately, she's behind me, which is a good thing. She puts up with me not being home much. But anyway, I'm proud to be able to do it. And I look back at giving back to my community, and this is part of giving back to the community. And because I've been blessed with so many great things. But anyway, so anytime anybody wants to come and take a peek, it's a very interesting project inside. And then when we finish, and we have our grand opening, I'll make sure each of you folks get an invitation, because I really want you there. Good. I really do. And I'm thinking about, by the way, maybe bringing in the Beach Boys the first night, just to give you some idea. Because it's beaches, right? That or somebody else. I've got some connections into the music world. So, but that would be really appropriate to me, where they could come in and sign photographs, and we're working on that now. Hopefully we'll be able to pull it off, Thanks. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and what I'll say is it's not often that I've changed my mind while being on the board, but I don't want to be the person voting against such a wonderful thing that you're putting, and you're taking a risk, and I'd like to see ISB turned around, and I wish you the best. Okay, so let's go ahead and just. Do I hear a motion for approval?
I'll move approval.
I'll
Is there
second.
a second? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? You got it unanimous.
Thanks, everybody.
No. Ms. Stone did the second.
All right. Now we're going to go on to redevelopment project update.
All right. You have the information on the Public Works projects that was put in your packet. I'll also note that we were talking about Krabby Joe's tonight. Just want to, for the record, say that that's Krabby's Oceanside over there.
Right.
It's easy to forget the other one's right down the road in Daytona Shores.
You
And
know
I do it
what,
all the time.
Yeah, you know what I was
Yeah,
talking
I know.
I just
Had to get that out. And then as far
sorry
as
about that. It was
the biggest thing,
the monument sign.
yeah, I don't know how many of you. I didn't bring any of the graphics or anything else that was shared back earlier November the 10th with FDOT. They were over at the Ocean Center and did a public meeting, and also had it on a webinar type setup, Zoom. And so everyone could participate one way or the other to at least see the presentation. And that's pretty much what it was. There was some input over at the Ocean Center for people to interact with some of the DOT folks, but it was kind of interesting to see the overall projects that they were looking at. It's not just East ISB. It's talking about what their plans are over on Oak Ridge. We all see a lot of barrels and barricades over there right now. But I think they've got some good visuals of what they're planning on doing, and also just making more improvements to A1A, and all of this to make it more pedestrian friendly, more safe for people that are visiting to move around, and it's not just about cars. I thought that was kind of, for me, eye-opening with how your FDOT might have been in the past. This is a new DOT that's was very transparent, I think, in showing some of the ideas and getting kind of ahead of it to share with the public. So if you haven't seen it, it's on their site, their website. Just go to the state of Florida Department of Transportation, and you can find a presentation of what they did in Daytona Beach, and much more. So that's all I have right now, unless you have any questions.
Okay. Any questions?
Just a comment. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You know, the road repaving. Sorry, the road repaving that is being done on the beach side. Is there a list of the roads that they intend to do?
I do believe there are. So we could share it. Some of the information, I think, is probably a little old that you saw in the report that we provided to you in Public Works. But I think they have additional ones that they're doing, and it wasn't in that information. So,
And I can add, there was some recent City Commission agenda item that dealt with the repaving project that has a list of the streets. We can get you connected to that information.
Thanks.
Okay.
As an individual who has suffered through the repaving and the regas lines on the beach side, the paving was amazingly efficient, and I think just about as well done as I've ever seen a crew work. In 2 days, they had done the entire North Oleander Boulevard from University all the way to the south, and cleaned up after themselves, and it really was impressive to see it. I don't know who the subcontractor was, but kudos to them. The gas is that was another problem. I don't think people's gas is finished in the city, and there's an awful lot of destruction of sidewalks and roads and all kinds of problems when they took up, I guess, my house was built in 1925, and it has gas in it.
So it's needed.
It's been a real challenge, but I'm sure the end result will be beneficial. But it's really torn the guts out of our beach side.
But needed.
Needed, yes, needed.
All right. Okay, I guess we're opening up for public comments from, we'll start with John Nicholson again. And by the way, somebody made a comment that, why are we printing green ink on green paper? So just, I didn't make that comment, somebody else made it.
It's Christmassy.
Yes. And it's very difficult to write on that paper. Always
that?
has. Yep. John Nicholson, Daytona Beachside. Yes, that first thing was here, asphalt. To let you all know that we're doing it. They added Butler. It was 30 years in the coming, but they finally did it. It was supposed to be on the last one 8 years ago and the one 12 years ago, and they took it off both times. So now it's done, thank God. But they are doing additional ones that are not on that list. So
I mean, there's still hope.
yes, there's still hope. Secondly, People's Gas. They were at front of the house today. They're coming tomorrow to dig it up, and they told me they were going to, destroy my house. So they are working very slowly. The telephone poles, that's another matter. I was told they would be done because we still have 2 and 3 at each house. So that's still a work in progress. Next up, the mayor, when he ran for elections, put out a flyer, a little brochure, what he's accomplished and what he spent. I think it was like $56 million or whatever it is. And $20 million went to downtown, $30 million went to Midtown, $750,000 went to Beachside. Okay? We were a little bit short. Okay? For the last 40 years I've been here, the mainland Beachside, we get about anywhere between 3 and 4% when you look at the funding between Midtown, downtown, and Beachside. So 3% of a total, when you go to 3, it should be like 33%. We're not getting it at all. So the asphalt is way, way overdue, okay? And we should ask for more. With those hotels going in, 4 stars, the area around it should be pristine. The people that are going to go to those hotels are going to expect some nice things, and it doesn't. Once you go past IHOP going north, it is just not nice. They really, really, if they're going to do North Beach Street, they really should do University to Oak Ridge in the same fashion that they do the rest of A1A. Because you're going to have, what, four stars on that street, and it's going to look like, you know what? So you all, should push for the inclusion of that in the next go-round. Because it really, really, if we're going to have those kind of, the Marriott Renaissance, if we're going to have that in the Hard Rock, we don't want to have a parking lot in the front. Now, they're talking about doing a parking lot again in front of the Brown & Brown building. Okay? Rather than have all that Beach Street, those trees that we iconically think of Beach Street, they're for their median, it's going to stop at the post office, and then they're going to have a parking lot. He wants to add more parking and no trees. To me, that is the biggest mistake. If you're going to put those apartments, there's supposed to be apartments going in there. Market rate, 2,000 so apartments in the front of a parking lot, it doesn't make sense to me. It really, really, if they want the top end to go down at that end, they really should continue those palms all the way down. And I'm saying that we really, really ought to continue our A1A all the way down. And if you look at FDOT, though, you're going to be terribly disappointed.
John, I hate
The
to
trees are going to
interrupt
come
you,
out.
But right now there are no trees to the south of the Brown & Brown building. It's been totally bulldozed several times since I've lived here. I can guarantee you that large mature trees, if it's a parking lot or if it's a housing comp, whatever happens in there, it's going to have trees involved in it. I don't know why you mentioned Brown & Brown, because I think...
Because it's right in front of it, because they're extending Beach Street. They're
by in
remodeling
front of
Beach
it, you
Street.
mean behind it.
No. The street of Beach Street is going to be redone. They've got $8 million to do what they just spent $5 million from Orange Avenue to Bay Street. Remember, they just took out all the pavers and put in white ones?
Yeah,
They're going to
you're
do the same
talking
thing
about- You're talking about the exit of the bridge now. That whole thing is going to be redone.
from
Main
Fairview
Street Bridge.
all the way to the post office is going to be redone. And that's what FDOT is looking at. And Brown & Brown wants parking lot there. He
Well, I
doesn't
can
want a
guarantee
median.
you, if they get a parking lot, there'll be more trees in it than we have now.
No, no,
because
no.
Right now,
no,
there
no.
is nothing.
No.
There's
No.
nothing there.
Okay, the visual. In other words, what they're going to do is they're going to have angle parking all the way down those sidewalks.
Like
They make
we
the
have,
sidewalk
like we have on Beach Street.
like we have. It is Beach Street, and so it's not going to change. It's just going to be angle parking rather than parallel parking.
So, I mean, you're against.
Absolutely. If we're going to spend that kind of money, $8 million, it should look like the rest of Beach Street. It
Well,
should
that's what
not.
they're putting in. They're putting in angle
No,
parking.
no. But there's not going to be a median, Gary. Those palm trees are not going to be there.
There isn't a median now in front of the Brown & Brown building.
Ann can't take it anymore.
Gary, Beach Street years and years ago put palm trees in the median. I don't know if you ever noticed them.
Oh, sure.
They're big major
you're
palms.
talking about South Beach Street. Yes.
Yes, all of that. And what I'm saying is it should
I'll
match
call you.
what we have now in the new $8 million extension of Beach Street.
Well, I think.
Do you
that-
understand me?
Yeah, I understand now
Okay.
what you're talking about.
Okay.
I think we're going to have a whole new park downtown. We have no idea what it's going to look like, even with the charrettes that we've been through for years down there. I think it's a process right now that's very hard to envision. Now, if your point is whatever happens there, we need to include trees and landscaping, I agree with you 100%.
No, I'm saying median, matching median to extend downtown the whole length from Fairview to Orange Avenue as matching. Likewise, the whole idea was on Beachside, I would like from the Hard Rock University to match the existing A1A median that we now. Do you understand, Teresa?
It's a DOT project.
To match that.
It's a DOT project
Yeah,
in
well,
downtown.
we
You should be at the DOT testifying.
I was.
We don't have much to do with that.
Beachside, Gary. The whole idea is Beachside. Okay, so I would like to have us go to Hard Rock because some of the lighting poles, the blue ones from the 1980s, are still in front of the Hard Rock. Go there sometime, and there are 7 blue poles just sitting there for the 1980s that they didn't replace when they did the other 2 miles, and that really shouldn't be. Okay, but anyway, I think there should be money spent on the beach side, especially in the Main Street area. Okay, again, the Superfund. At one point, Kelly offered us $14 million for our pier and our downtown area, and Chisholm turned it down. We could have done a lot with $14 million.
What pier are you talking about downtown?
Pier, P-I-E-R, casino,
Yeah,
Joe's Crab Shack, that area.
downtown,
Beachside downtown, I call
beachside downtown.
it downtown. It's where all the buildings are.
Okay.
Okay. Seabreeze with the hookah bar was out there Friday and Saturday night. There used to be about 300 to 400 kids at the hookah bar after the other bars closed. There was 17 one night and 12 the other night.
Bravo.
So it is coming down the pike with new regulations, but right now it's closed. It's much quieter than it has been in years. And the DOT, you're not going to like what they have proposing. Even on Oak Ridge, when you get to Grandview, they go on the sidewalk.
I agree with you.
So you got a 5-foot sidewalk with people walking in 2 directions and bicycles. I think that is a terrible mistake. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Ann, did you want to add to the comment? Because I know you were getting up and getting upset.
Yeah. I go to a lot of these meetings and I listen to a lot of comments. And he was speaking metaphorically, going to Beach Street Bay to Fairview. John was speaking metaphorically that by putting angled parking on both sides, they were turning it into a parking lot. And the median strip, whether there's a median or not, is not determined yet. That's up to the commission, it's up to the design phase. They will lose 84 parking spaces by putting in a median. I'm of the opinion that we're building, this is not related to Beachside, but I'll get there, it's going to tie. I'm of the opinion that we should put in a median strip because we're building an urban walking core, and it's more pleasant to walk with a median rather than trying to cross the road. One in each direction. It will look better, and it will be more pleasant. One of the things that they have to do, though, is figure out how to move people. How are you going to move people without having people get in their cars? And one of the ways they can do that is to have Votran bring back with a public-private partnership the trolley that went from Granada to Dunlawton with a loop from over to Beach Street, so that people can come out of their homes, out of the hotels, without getting in their cars and get over to Beach Street. And people who are going to magically appear in the magically appearing developments on Beach Street can go over to the beach side. And I think we really need to focus on that rather than parking spaces. We need the median strip. And that's all I have to say on that. It was just frustrating because he was speaking about a metaphorical parking lot. And if in terms of losing those 84 spaces.
And you say like a parking lot, you don't say a parking lot.
Right. Well, that's true. That was true. So if we lose those 84 spaces, we could try to have the News Journal Center be open when they're not having events, and we could ask Brown & Brown to open up their parking lot when they're not in business after hours. Yeah. So I think there's many other solutions that get us those 84 spaces back, or we don't need them. That's not Beachside, but a beachside trolley relates to Beachside. Mm-hmm. So I think we need a beachside trolley. Thank you.
All right. Jen? Last but not least.
Hi, everybody. Jenny Nazak, 501 Harvey. It is really exciting to hear about how our wonderful city is kicking it up a notch, because our city is already awesome. We are full of awesome people who know a lot. We also attract a lot of wonderful visitors, and also people are trying to move here. Now, one of my pet subjects that probably most of you have probably heard me talk about is plants. Plants. Why plants? Well, they're way more important than people think. One way that Daytona Beach is not quite keeping up with the times, as far as I can tell, is that the mentality that underlies a lot of our landscaping practices is outdated a bit, and it's antiquated, and it is actually contributing to things like drought, flood extremes, flooding problems, extreme heat. The way that we're doing some of our landscaping, by which I mean removing too much vegetation and kind of scraping the land and treating the outdoors kind of like our living room rug. You want to vacuum your living room rug. You don't want pieces of food on the rug. You don't want junk. You try to vacuum it up. But outdoors, like underneath an oak tree, you don't want to take away all the oak leaves. The oak leaves feed the ground, feed the tree. And I say this, all right, so I'm an environmentalist, and I'm an urban environmentalist. But how can I say this? It's such a subject of passion for me that I could just go on about it. Like I've gone on about it with Gary, because who has visited the Pinewood Cemetery? Have you all visited the beautiful Pinewood Cemetery? That place is a gem. And there are some people who have not lived here as long as a lot of you all have, and they don't even know that Beachside does naturally have oak trees. And if it weren't for the Pinewood Cemetery and certain parts of North Oleander Avenue, a lot of people, and then down New Smyrna, Atlantic Center for the Arts area, people wouldn't even know that oak trees are part of our ecology. Oak trees are very valuable. I mean, they're beautiful. They provide shade. They shelter all the creatures that birds depend on for their food. And okay, a lot of us over the past couple of years have probably been reading in the news, because for the first time, in the past couple of years, for the first time, a lot of environmental news is hitting the mainstream news. Things like the importance of pollinators is like in the New York Times now, or is in the main newspaper or whatever. And things are being talked about. The weather extremes are being talked about. And so it's in that sense that I say that we're not really moving with the times, because we're doing things like the grass is this short and then they go in and mow it again. And the beach side, and this is actually a citywide issue, but the beach side is a little bit more high and dry. Interestingly enough, even though we're right next to the ocean, we're like more high and dry. So we're actually creating a mini desert. And so I talk with public works people a lot. I've talked with a Midtown Redevelopment Board about how the connection between vegetation, like really good vegetation, and flood mitigation, stormwater mitigation. So I'm not asking you all to really do anything, but just kind of reflect about, what could we do? What could we do with our landscaping? And one of the things I always try to do is not suggest things that are going to cost people money. So one of the things that we can do that can help right away is just mow less often. Just mow less often. And we could even retire leaf blowers. Leaf blowers actually just kick up a bunch of dust all over the place and junk. We could sort of back that off. And we could definitely back off on scraping oak leaves out from underneath the trees in the cemetery. But the problem is, a lot of our kind of like mainstream norms are still set back in the past. Like, well, it's not looked after. People don't. Oh, it's not looked after if it's not mowed or if the leaves aren't raked. But that's an old norm, and the new norms are becoming more like natural. And actually, a lot of the people that we want, like people are always saying, how do we attract more young people to live here? How do we attract more conscious types of tourists that won't trash our place? Well, a lot of young people really care how a city treats its native plants, native wildlife, and how it treats the environment in general. A lot of people care about that. And a lot of really good tourists, the kind who don't throw cigarette butts, the kind who don't trash sea breeze, the kind who treat the locals with respect, those people care about how we treat our environment. So I'm going to keep working through every channel I can find, including the beloved Pinewood Cemetery. I always love going in there and really appreciate you, Gary.
We're adopting Jenny.
I just love what you do there, and I'm like a vigilante of the cemetery. Like I emailed Gary, somebody put graffiti, and this is the location. So, but anyway, anything about.
By the way, just so you know, back in 1979, when I was 15 years old, I was the vice president of the Future Farmers of America, and we instituted the project of fixing up the Pinewood Cemetery, which we won state awards for doing that back then. Because at that time, it was a mess. You know, it had been. The lawn was overgrown. I mean, everything, things were way out of place and everything like that. But anyways.
Well, that is such a neat thing to know about you.
You'll find out about
That's
that.
wonderful. Yeah. And by the way, that cemetery is a dune. It's basically on a dune. There's no reason why we can't have grass on a dune, but there's also lots of beautiful gaillardias and other wildflowers that are actually already in there. We don't even have to plant them. We just have to ease up on the mowing a little bit, and we get these.
Leave them alone.
Yeah, leave them alone a little bit. And the oak leaves, the magnificent oak leaves, and we've got lots of examples about that. Our public works department's actually super. They know a lot about green infrastructure. They know a lot about native plants, and I think the shifting cultural norms, the more that wave starts lapping at the shores of Daytona, that'll help our public works department get more leeway to do things like more native plantings and tall coastal grasses instead of just the turf grass. Oh, and this median strips with buzz cut turf grass are just a bad idea. They're ugly. They're unsafe. Like who I would never want to go out there and mow that. But they're ugly, and they could be a lot more. There could be a lot more shade and beauty and softness. So Mother Nature has curves. Mother Nature is doing stuff for us for free. She's cleaning the air, cleaning the water, trying to, filtering the stormwater, mitigating drought flood extremes. There's actually a local rain cycle, local water cycle, and it just trees absorb water and trees evapotranspirate. It goes up into the atmosphere. There's a whole thing locally, and it's also hooked into a whole global water cycle. So if we start to restore and preserve our local water cycle, we'll be making a difference in our local area immediately with heat mitigation and so on. And then we'll also be doing our part to hold up the global water cycle. Thank you all for listening. This is always a subject that's hard for me to put into one small box, and really appreciate you all.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, that closes public participation. Now we'll go to board members. Teresa,
No comments.
is Krista still there? Does she want to say anything?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add except hope to see everyone at the parade this weekend.
Okay. All right. Robert?
No, I don't have anything to add.
Gary? All right. The only thing I want to add is you might want to add on the agenda for the next meeting, officers, the election of officers. All right. Anyways, with that, meeting adjourned.